welcome in to the day's Belly Up MMA Show. Tonight we are previewing and picking UFC Fight Night Vegas 21. Thank you for being with us. We are brought to you by Belly Up Fantasy, bellyupfantasysports.com. And right now is a great time to go visit bellyupfantasysports.com as they've got articles getting you ready for baseball as everything is kicking off there, along with stuff still going on with football, basketball, all the sports, including MMA things, there on bellyupfantasysports.com and bellyupsports.com. And we're also brought to you by BUSR. We'll talk about more of them in just a moment, but they give us all the odds that we have on here as well. In just a few moments, we'll be joined by Jay Henry, and excited to talk some of the fights tonight with him. This UFC Vegas 21 card is headlined by Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad. Should be a fight, I believe, for the ages. Here for us, we have 3 UFC debuts, 13 total fights, 9 different weight classes. We've had 3 fights get canceled, 6 fights had to change around who was fighting, and have some replacement fighters on there as well. And as I said earlier, all the numbers that we're going to give you today for the odds are provided by BUSR. When you bet with Belly Up Fantasy, you bet with BUSR, a fantastic international sports book that allows you to place bets from anywhere at any time, from horse racing to casino games, and of course, all of your favorite sports, including the UFC and MMA. BUSR has all the action you could want with fast, secure payouts. For a limited time only, go to busr.com/Belly Up Fantasy. And when you do and sign up and create your account, you will, let's see here, you'll get a 20% sign-up bonus of up to $500. That's $500 of free money to begin winning now. Go to busr.com/Belly Up Fantasy and do it now, or if you want to wait till after the program is done and you've heard the picks for today. Last week, we went 10-5 on picks. We have to brag about it because it doesn't happen every week. Tonight, I have 6 underdogs for you, which is not usually a good thing, but I've looked at the numbers. I followed it that way, and tonight I'll be giving you 6 underdogs to keep an eye on. Tonight in the fights, we'll have those picks here in just a few minutes as we get to that portion of the program. But right now, we're going to bring in a guest for today, and this is Jay Henry. Jay, how you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fine, Vince. How are you, man? Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Not a problem at all. Good to have you. Jay is active MMA Twitter person, dropping different things, retweets, and putting out some great comments and opinions on the MMA world. So we brought him on tonight to talk about. First of all, you can find him on Twitter at jhenry79. At jhenry79 is where you can find him on Twitter. There. Jay, let's start first of all. We don't usually start at the top, but we're going to today. Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad. Muhammad, obviously a late addition coming in for Hamzat Chimaev. What are your thoughts on Leon and Belal?
Well, first, let me say that I'm bummed that, Hamzat didn't make the main event for this one, because this is one of my most anticipated fights of the year. But, Belal, he had a great fight last month against Diego Lima. He looked really, really good. Didn't take a lot of damage. And, he stepped up whenever Hamzat supposedly, caught COVID for the 8th time. No, I'm just joking. I think it's like the 3rd time. But yeah, Belal Muhammad, I respect the guy. I respect this guy so much. I do follow him on Twitter. And, after seeing Leon yesterday in the stare downs, I'm like, really? Belal didn't really deserve that. But hey, you got to sell a fight. I'm really excited about this fight. A lot of people don't realize that both of these guys have the same record. They're both 18-3. And, Belal's on a 3-fight win streak. And Leon's on an 8-fight win streak. And Dana White did say this week in an interview, hey, if he gets this win, he's going to be next to face Kamaru Usman. So I'm really, really excited to see how this one goes. I know Leon's a bit taller than Belal, but Belal is a big 170. He moves forward. He's going to put that pressure on because, Leon Edwards is usually the one to push the pace. But I think Belal is going to be the one to push the pace tonight.
Yeah, Bilal likes to stand right in front of you and put a lot of pressure, keep pressure on you. Of course, Leon, he's one of the most well-rounded fighters, I think, at least in
Absolutely.
the UFC. And people are there's recency bias, I think, in this fight. A lot of people have seen Bilal fight, and more recently, of course, and Leon, some to his own fault, but a lot of it not to his own fault. Hasn't fought since 2019, and Bilal's had 3 fights since Leon's last fight.
Yeah.
And so they're going to come in. Bilal's a plus 200 underdog, Leon at minus 260, according to BUSR. And, to me, Leon deserves a higher ranked opponent.
Yeah.
Obviously, he deserved it before Hamzat as well. And he's had people say, no, I'm not going to fight him. And he's turned down some fights, I think, as well. But nonetheless, Bilal's the guy standing in front of him tonight. And what do you think? At plus 200, there's some value there. But what do you think about Bilal Muhammad's approach tonight and potential for winning tonight?
Well, listen here. Leon didn't have to take that fight. He absolutely could have just said no. I mean, he deserves a higher ranked opponent, if you ask me. But for him taking that fight, I respect him for taking this fight. The show must go on, and Bilal is as good of an opponent as any for Leon to face. So if Bilal can get past Leon, it'll be a feat in itself. But I'm not gonna. I believe it or not, I'm not betting against Bilal. Like you said, Leon has been out since 2019. And, for some fighters, ring rust is a thing, even though Dominic Cruz says ring rust does not exist. More often than not, in most fighters, case in point, Conor McGregor in his fight against Dustin Poirier, ring rust does affect fighters. So I think that's going to be, a big question going into this fight. And but if Leon, can implement his game plan, I think he walks away with the win tonight.
The over-unders at 4.5 rounds today. It's pretty even as far as the over and the under numbers. Do you think, to me, this one feels like a decision fight, but how long do you think this fight lasts?
Listen, I don't think I wouldn't bet against anything other than a decision. I mean, if you look at these guys' fights, you don't see a lot of finishes. Leon can get it done, but these guys are more of decision fighters. So if I had my bet, I would bet whoever you're going to pick by decision.
I think Muhammad's gone into the 4th round one time, I think, in his career.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of opportunities to go past that. It wasn't in the UFC either. And so, I think Muhammad's best chance is to get up early, maybe win the first 2 rounds, possibly even the first 3 rounds, and then force Edwards to finish him. Might be his best bet. But there's going to be a lot of pressure definitely on him. It's kind of a sneaky good card. And the UFC's done a great job, by the way, of putting together cards. Every week it's phenomenal. I was just looking at the 260 card, and I thought, oh, my goodness.
Yeah. It can't get here fast enough. I am so believe it or not, I actually posted on Twitter because, 261 with the 2 women's fights, that's a fun – that's probably going to be one of the best cards of the year. And,
yeah.
People are just because it's 2 women's fights, but yeah, UFC 260 and 261 with 2 championship fights. Hey, it's an embarrassment of riches, man.
Talk to me more about this card here. Who are some other fights that you're looking forward to tonight other than Edwards and Muhammad?
I'm going to have to say Dan Ige against Gavin Tucker. Dan Ige is coming off a loss against Calvin Kattar. Gavin Tucker's coming off an impressive win against Billy Quarantillo. Dan Ige, I believe, before he lost, he was on I think a 6-fight win streak. So initially this was supposed to be Dan Ige versus Ryan Hall. Ryan Hall being one of my favorite fighters. And like I told you pre-show, when Ryan Hall pulled out of this, it was, I was incredibly sad that I wasn't going to get to see Ryan Hall and Dan Ige. But Gavin Tucker is no slouch. He's coming in on a 3-fight win streak. The guy's got a 13-1 record. And, Dan Ige's got his hands full in this fight.
So that's Ige Tucker. They're the third to last fight tonight. Anybody else on the main event?
Well, yeah, you got to talk. Yeah, you got to talk about Misha Sirkanov versus Ryan Spann. Like Leon Edwards, Misha Sirkanov has actually been out since 2019. The guy hasn't had a fight. When I see this guy is just absolutely enormous. I mean, for 205, you look at this guy and it's like, how does this guy make 205? And believe it or not, Misha Sirkanov is coming off a big win against Jimmy Crute. And if you know Jimmy Crute is on a tear right now in the light heavyweight division. So, uh, you know, Ryan Spann, he's coming off a loss to Johnny Walker. Misha Sirkanov also has a loss to Johnny Walker, so that it should be pretty interesting. Ryan Spann, I think he really does got more than he can handle right now, but I'm not gonna. He does have some notable wins, against like Nogueira, but these guys that are in the tail end of their career, and I think this is going to be an opportunity for Misha Sirkanov to show people who we thought he was when he first came into the UFC. So I'm interested to see if we see a new Misha Sirkanov tonight.
All right. What about on the undercard? Anybody in the prelims that catch your eye?
I'm going to say I'm going to talk about Ben Rothwell and Philip Lins. Ben Rothwell, a couple of years ago, he retired, said he was done. He's a staple in the heavyweight ranks. He's on a 2-fight winning streak that was halted in October, but it was against Marcin Tybura. And I thought Ben Rothwell was fighting like Tybura took his lunch money. So I'm interested to see, Ben Rothwell, all he's got to do is put that fist to face, and he can put any heavyweight out. But, Lenz has a pretty strange resume when it comes to being in the cage. He started his career off with, 9 straight wins, but he was competing at light heavyweight, and I guess he got tired of making that weight cut and said, he's going to do what a lot of light heavyweights do and moved up to the heavyweight ranks. And in 2018, he got 4 wins in 6 months, and he won the PFL heavyweight championship until he got sidelined. So I'm interested to see how this fight goes because, I think I do see Ben Rothwell as sort of a gatekeeper right here. This is an opportunity for Philip Lins, who I think is very, very capable, to make a run in the heavyweight division if he can get a win tonight over Ben Rothwell.
What about Angela Hill, Ashley Yoder? This is, of course, a rematch. That one got pushed back a couple weeks on there. Yoder is a plus 305 underdog. Angela Hill at minus 380. And the way people talk about Angela Hill, you'd think she's top of the class.
Right.
But
yeah.
Her record is definitely not top of the class.
Well, you have to respect her. You have to respect her work ethic. How many wins did she get last year? Was it 5 or 6 in the year?
Yeah,
and I believe isn't Angela Hill actually stepping in for who I can't remember who it was that actually fell out, but it should be interesting. Styles make fights, and believe it or not, even though Angela Hill get that win in the first fight, the second fight can always be different.
Can always be different indeed. Let's talk briefly, real quick, about last week's controversy. Aljamain Sterling and Petr Yan, the illegal knee that went down. I know you've are a Sterling fan, so talk a little bit about that fight, how it ended, and kind of the aftermath of it.
I am. I respect Aljamain Sterling. I've had interactions with him on Twitter, and I really, really like him. And the guy is a contender, without a doubt. I mean, but everything that's happened in light of, the knee has not gone the way that I thought it would with Aljo. Once again, I told you pre-show, my thoughts once that knee happened is he should have dropped that belt off at the Apex and said, Dana, I'll pick it up whenever I beat Jan in the rematch. But the controversy with the knee has now pushed into in with Matt Serra, his longtime coach, his longtime corner, and the controversy surrounding the fact that he didn't have Matt Serra in his corner. And I listened to Matt Serra on his podcast, and I got to say I'm with Serra on this one because Ray Longo and Matt Serra have been in Aljamain's corner basically his whole UFC career. And if anybody deserves to be in Aljo's corner, it's Matt Serra. So his decision in, how it played out according to Matt Serra, I got to say I'm with Serra on this one.
All right. Hamzat Chimaev, retired, now unretired. What's next for Hamzat?
I was scrolling through Instagram the other day and I come across Hamzat. Even though it wasn't subtitles, he was out for a walk. He looked like he was healthy. He was smiling and saying that he understands that he told everyone that he was retired, but it might have been a hasty decision. Maybe the COVID was getting to his head a little bit. But last week he did announce that he is feeling better. He thinks that he did make a hasty decision, and believe it or not, everybody wins here with Hamzat Chimaev coming back.
Yeah, Hamzat, the MMA has become the Brett Favre of retirements. Anytime someone says I'm retired, you got, no, definitely not.
I like that.
Cejudo will be back eventually.
I'm gonna wait.
Hamzat's back. Everybody's back. It doesn't matter. All
I
right,
think
Jay.
Cejudo's gonna. Oh,
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say you said Cejudo. I think Cejudo's coming back at middleweight.
He'll be back somewhere. There ain't no doubt about that.
Absolutely.
Jay Henry, you can follow him on Twitter at jhenry79. Keep up with him. Things are coming for Jay Henry. You're going to see him more around in the MMA world as well. Jay, thank you so much for taking some time to be with us tonight. I'm sure we'll talk to you again sometime.
Hey, Vince, this is my first opportunity, and I appreciate it very much.
Not a problem. You did great. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. That's Jay Henry. Again, you can follow him on Twitter at jhenry79. Knows what he's talking about and studied out. Appreciate him coming on, taking the time. Kind of a late notice that I gave him, and sure appreciate him coming on and doing a great job, giving some breakdown into this fight card and some other things as well. And I will give my picks in a moment to tell you if I agree with him on some of his picks as well. Like I said earlier, we had 9 fights change all around. We had 3 fights canceled that were originally scheduled for this card, and then 6 fights they had to find replacement fighters for. Of course, the most notable one is Belal Muhammad stepping in for Hamzat Chimaev in the main event against Leon Edwards. We'll talk about that fight in the moments to come, and we're going to get to the picks here in just a second. Before we do, I want to remind you that as we put up the odds for the fight up on the screen for you in just a second, we go through fight by fight. All the odds are provided by BUSR. When you bet with Belly Up Fantasy, you bet with BUSR. It's a fantastic international sports book that allows you to place bets from anywhere at any time, from horse racing to casino games, and of course, all your favorite sports, including the MMA. BUSR has all the action you could want with fast, secure payouts. For a limited time only, go to busr.com/bellyupfantasy and create an account there. It's free to set up. And when you create that account, you get a 20% sign-up bonus of up to $500. That's right, $500 of free money when you use the link, or you go to busr.com/bellyupfantasy. You can also go to bellyupfantasysports.com and click on the link that is provided for you on that website. But you get a 20% sign-up bonus up to $500. You do that now. After I give you all the right picks tonight, you can put those in. You can't hold me responsible, though. And then you can go through and make your picks, get yourself some spending money for the rest of the week. Like I said, last week we had an incredible week, going 10-5 in the picks. We usually average right around the 500 mark. Last week we were on fire. And this week, I'm not going to lie to you, it scares me. 6 underdog picks, which is not great. Typically, we're watching right now in the UFC, you're averaging about close to 70%, 67, 68% of the time. The favorites are winning these fights. We're going to give you 6 underdogs to watch for tonight. There's plenty of value to be had. Let's go ahead and get to the fights this evening. Again, brought to you by BellyUpFantasySports.com and BUSR. The first fight of the night on the prelim card is going to be this one right here. Matthew Simmelsberger and Jason Witt. This fight has an over-under of 2.5 rounds, with the over at -120, the under at -110. What does that tell you? Vegas has no idea what's going to happen in this fight, and honestly, neither do we. Jason Witt, 18-6 as a professional. He's 1-1 in the UFC. At age 34, he stands at 5'10" with a 70-inch reach, and he is 2-1 in 2020, 3 fights in 2020, and most of his fights go late round or a decision. His last fight, let's see here, was against Cole Williams, and he won that in the second round with a triangle choke. He lost his UFC debut against Takashi Sato in round 1 in ground and pound. Matthew Semmelsberger, he is 7-2. He's 1-0 in the UFC at age 28. He's 6'1" with a 75-inch reach. That's quite the advantage, 5-inch reach advantage. He's on a 4-fight win streak, including 2 wins in 2020. Most of his fights are finishes, but his UFC debut, he won in a unanimous decision over Carlton Menace. Tonight, we're watching these two guys go at it. The older Witt, the younger Semmelsberger. The shorter Witt, the longer reach Semmelsberger. The more active, well, they're pretty much even. 3 fights for Witt in 2020 and 2 for Semmelsberger, but both with 1 win in the UFC and Witt with 1 loss as well. I'm going to be honest with you, there's not a whole lot of ways to research this one out a whole lot. So good luck on picking this one. I'm going to go with Jason Witt. He's the -10 right here. Semmelsberger at -120. We're going to pick Jason Witt in this fight, and we're going to cross our fingers and hope that we're right. Because as much as I like to research and prepare for this show, that fight was really, really hard to research. So that's where we're at on that one. Jason Witt with the first fight of the night. Second fight of the night is Gloria de Paula versus Jin Frey. This fight is over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over at -370. The under at 295 plus 295. There is lots of value in that under for sure. So if you've got a little extra pizza money that you want to sprinkle there, that might be a good place to sprinkle it on the under there in De Paula versus Frey. Jin Frey, she's 9-6. She's 0-2 in the UFC. She's age 35, stands at 5'3" with a 65-inch reach. A lot of her fights head to decision, which is, of course, partially why the over is at 370 in this fight. Gloria de Paula, she's 5-2. This is her UFC debut. She's 25 years old. She's got a 2-inch height advantage at 5'5" and a 2.5-inch reach advantage at 67.5 reaches. She has some power. She has 4 wins by knockout or by TKO, but with this being her debut, there's a lot of question marks on if she can take out Frey. Frey is the underdog, even though she's more experienced, but that 2 losses, 0-2 in the UFC, obviously does not help her. In this fight, we're going with the younger, the longer, and the more powerful Gloria de Paula at -190. It's a fight that we feel pretty comfortable about. Again, her power is impressive. Those 4 knockouts, she's been able to finish people, even though she hasn't been necessarily fighting the UFC talent yet. We believe she has the power to stick, and that's exactly what we expect to see tonight against Jin Frey. Third fight of the night is Courtney Casey versus J.J. Ulrich. This fight is over-under set at 2.5. The over at -445. The under at +345. This one more than likely is definitely going the distance, is what we expect at least on this. Thank you, by the way, for putting in your picks. Feel free to comment at any time the picks that you have for this fight. Courtney Casey is 9-8. She is 5-7 in the UFC. 33 years old. She stands at 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. She is 1-1 in 2020, 2 fights that she had. Her last win was a round 1 armbar to Barella. She has some big losses in her career. She's lost to Jillian Anderson, Michelle Waterson, Joanne Calderon, and all but one of her UFC losses went to decision. So even though she had those losses, she took them the distance, and she hangs in there as well. J.J. Ulrich, she is 8-4 in her professional career, 4-3 in the UFC. She's 28 years old, 5'5" with a 67.5-inch reach. She is 0-1. In 2020, she had a split decision loss to Sabina Mazo. All of her UFC wins have gone to unanimous decision. There's no value on the over at -445, but I would be scared to death to take the under on this one here. You see the number for you, Courtney Casey at +120, J.J. Ulrich at -150. I told you we were taking 6 dogs, and this is one of them. We believe in Courtney Casey, like what she's shown so far in more recently, I suppose. and I think that she has the experience here to take this one all the way as well. She has had much better competition. She's fought against much better fighters, and I just believe that sets her up for a good night against J.J. Ulrich. Next fight is one a lot of people are looking forward to. Nasrat Haqparast and Rafa Garcia. Garcia is gifted, by the way, according to his nickname. Haqparast is 12-3. He's 4-2 in the UFC. At age 25, he's 5'10 with a 72-inch reach. He's 1-1 in 2020. His win was a unanimous decision over Alex Munoz. He had a loss to Drew Dober in round one. His three of his UFC wins were by unanimous decision. Rafa, the gifted Garcia, is 12-0, and tonight he makes his UFC debut. He's 26 years old, 5'7", with a 68-inch reach, which means he is shorter by 3 inches, and his reach is 4 inches less than Nasrat Haqparast. He has likes to submit. He's had 2 rear naked chokes and 3 arm bars. He likes to end his fights via submission often. This fight, the over-under is set at 2.5, but it is dead even. The over at -115, the under at -115 also, which again says they have no idea what's going to happen. Haqparast is the favorite at -435. Garcia at +335, a dog and a large dog at that. And I am going with Rafa, the gifted Garcia. A debut win for Garcia is what we're predicting against a very talented Nasrat Haqparast. This will not be an easy fight. It could go very long as well, but I believe this is going to be an active fight all along the way, and we are going to go with Rafa Garcia as the winner, the big upset over Nasrat Haqparast in this fight. But I do think this fight could be one of the better fights of the evening, and obviously would not be surprised if the favorite was able to get the win. We just really like Garcia in this one. The numbers that we've studied out tell us Garcia should win this one. So that's where we're going to go. We're not going with the eye test, friends. A lot of people will watch a fight. They'll go, that guy's entertaining. That guy's powerful. That guy's whatever. And by the eyes, they go, yep, that's who's going to win. We go by the numbers. We look at the stats of the fights, at all the different numbers that are provided for us. And that's how we pick winners. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Feel free to share your thoughts on these fights as we go along. Next fight is going to be Yaya and Rey Rodriguez. This one expected to be a little bit shorter of a fight. The over-under is at 1.5. The over at -150. The under at +120. Yaya is a -300 favorite. Rodriguez at +240. Yaya is 26-10-1. And he's been in the UFC since 2011. He's seen a lot, been through a lot. He's age 36. He's 5'6" with a 68-inch reach. He did have the one draw in 2020 in his only fight. Yaya is a submission artist. He loves the chokes. He's finished a lot of fights with chokes. And so you definitely want to be aware and watch exactly what goes on with this. Rey Rodriguez, he's 16-7. He's 0-1 in the UFC. At age 33, he's 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. His one loss in 2020 was a round one choke by Kelleher. He was a Dana White Contender Series contestant in 2019, and most of his finishes come mainly with chokes as well. So both of these guys are like to end the fights in submissions, and for that reason, it could be quite entertaining as they go at it. Older fighters, 36 and 33. Not super active, both of them with one fight in 2020, and both of them liking to end fights the same way, so it could be a fight to watch. We are going with the favorite in this fight. That is Yaya for this fight is the way that we are leaning. And again, you're welcome to go a different direction if you so choose, but you will be wrong. Yaya, the selection we are taking here in this fight. Then another exciting fight planned here for the prelims. It is the one and only jourdain, Charles Jourdain versus Marcelo Rojo. And this fight, I believe, is going to be phenomenal. Personally, I think this might be fight of the night material here. This fight is over-under set at 2.5. The over at -110, the under at -120. 20. Jourdain is a minus 260 favorite. Rojo at plus 200. Charles Jourdain is 10-3-1. He's won 2-1 in the UFC. At age 25, he stands at 5'9" with a 69-inch reach. He had 2 fights in 2020. It was a loss and a no contest. He has his 1 win in the UFC was a round 2 knockout, and then he had 2 losses, 1 by split decision and 1 by unanimous decision. Marcelo Rojo is making his UFC debut. He was scheduled to fight earlier this year and had to that fight got canceled and pushed back. He is 16-6 as a professional, and he is age 32. His last 6 wins were by round 1 finishes. And thank you, by the way, for commenting on the fights. We have a lot of Nasrat fans definitely jumping in here now. So good luck with that fight. I think it's going to be a great fight for sure. Well, now we're on Charles Jourdain and Marcelo Rojo. Looking at this fight, the debut by Rojo, the okay career by Charles Jourdain, but since he's been in the UFC, it's just not been what he was expected to be. Jourdain, the favorite at 260, but we are going with the underdog in this one as well. Marcelo Rojo in his UFC debut. That's the second UFC debut, the third actually UFC debut fighter that we are picking to win tonight. Gloria de Paula, Rafa the Gifted Garcia, and Marcelo Rojo. We're taking all 3 debuts to win their fights tonight. Next fight on the card is another fight that had to be rescheduled and moved around, and this is Angela Hill and Ashley Yoder. This fight, over-under is set at 2.5 with the over at minus 400, the under at plus 300. Now, I'm telling you, we hit on 3 unders last week, and this is one I think you need to keep a close eye on and consider. At plus 300, all kinds of value there. I don't think this fight goes the distance. I think this fight ends in a finish, even though a lot of these 2 fighters take it to decision. There's been too much buildup to this one. I think this one gets ended. Angela Hill defeated Ashley Yoder by unanimous decision in 2017. Angela Hill is a pro fighter at 12-9. She's 6-7 in the UFC. At age 36, she's 5'3" with a 64.5-inch reach. She had, 2-2 in 2020. Her 4 wins, 6 wins, in the UFC. She had 4 were by decision and 2 by finishes. Ashley Yoder is 8-6. She's 3-5 in the UFC. Both of these fighters with losing records in the UFC. Yoder's 33. She's got a 4-inch height advantage at 5'7" and a 5-inch reach advantage at 69.5. She was 1-1 in 2020. Her last win was in November of 2020 by unanimous decision. All 3 of her UFC wins were by decision. Yet I still think, like I said before, this fight's not going the distance. I think this one's going to be ended at some point in the second round. I think both fighters are going to come out and go after each other pretty hard. And we're going to go again with the underdog at plus 305, Ashley Yoder. And we had picked her back when she was originally scheduled to fight Angela Hill a couple of weeks ago. We were on this one as well. To me, this is the best underdog that is on the card tonight. And at plus 305 versus the minus 380 favorite in Angela Hill, we're going to lean with Ashley Yoder, and we're taking the under 2.5 on this fight, as well as this one will headline the prelim card and get us ready for the main card that follows. So we've got a number of underdogs here in the prelims. Let's see here. We had Courtney Casey is the underdog. Rafa Garcia, an underdog. We had Marcelo Rojo and Ashley Yoder. So 4 underdogs and 3 UFC debuts that we are predicting will win their debut fights tonight as well. Now let's go to the main card. And the first fight of the night is Eric Anders versus Darren Stewart. Now, we originally had Eric Anders scheduled for an interview that we were going to record and play for you right now. It didn't work out with fight week going on, and the time just didn't happen. So maybe we'll get him on in a future episode as well. This fight, Anders versus Stewart, over-under set at 2.5. The over at -220. The under at +180. You see Anders, the dog, at +150. Stewart, the favorite, at -180. Eric Anders, 13-5. He's 5-5 in the UFC. 33 years old. He stands at 6'1" with a 75-inch reach. His last fight was a unanimous decision loss. That was back in May of 2020. He's got wins over Gerald Meerschaert. That was a split decision, and over Moreira was a round one finish. He had 3 fights in 2019, 4 fights in 2018, and 4 fights in 2017. Only 1 fight in 2020. So he's usually more active. It'll be interesting to see if that has an effect on this fight or not. And it'll be interesting to see exactly where it all goes. And some people don't like my picks. That's fine. Pick someone else. I don't care. Darren Stewart, he's 12-6, 5-6 in the UFC. He is 30 years old, 6 foot tall with a 74-inch reach, 1-2 in 2020. His last fight was a split decision loss to Kevin Holland, and he looked pretty good in that fight. In the UFC, he has 3 wins by finish and 2 by decision. This fight, we're going with the favorite, Darren Stewart. He's the -180 favorite, and we're leaning in that direction. Anders, we like him, think he's a fine fighter, but like what Stewart is and what Stewart can be, and think that Stewart has a really bright future in the next year, 2, 3 years as well. So we're going to lean Darren Stewart on this one, going with the favorite in this fight. The second fight on the main card is Manel Kape versus Matheus Nikolao. And this one is Kape at -120, Nikolao at -110. The fight is over-under set at 2.5. The over at -135. The under at +105. Nikolao is 15-2-1 as a professional. He is 28 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. He's on a 2-fight win streak. His last fight, October of 2019. He's 5-1 in the UFC. 3 decisions and 2 finishes in those 5 wins. Manel Kape is 15-5. He's 27 with a stands at 5'5" with a 68-inch reach. His last UFC fight was his debut, actually, at was a unanimous decision loss February of this year. His last 3 wins were round 2 knockouts. That was when he was fighting for Ryzen. And so you see here, this fight is interestingly close. A lot of things are close about this. Kape at -120, Nikolao at -110. The over-under is set close at -135 for the over, +105 for the under. Could be an intriguing fight, an interesting fight. Could be a good fight. We're going to go here with the -110 Matheus Nikolao to win this fight. And we'll see how it all shakes out as well. Again, feel free to. Man, we got some happy people today. Thank you for watching, by the way. Next fight on the card is Jonathan Martinez versus Davy Grant. Jonathan Martinez is the favorite at -315. Grant at +255. Jonathan Martinez is 13-3, 4-2 in the UFC at 26 years old. He stands 5'8", 69.5-inch reach. He has 2 wins in 2020. He went 2-1. Both of those wins were, let's see, he's had, in his 4 UFC wins, 2 of them were round 3 wins with a knee, and 2 unanimous decision wins as well. Davy Dangerous Grant. He's 10-4, 3-2 in the UFC. 35 years old at 5'8". He has a 69-inch reach. He was 1-0 in 2020. He's on a 2-fight win streak. 1 win was a round 3 knockout, 1 by unanimous decision as well. All of Davy's losses have been by submission. That's not great for him, but Jonathan Martinez is also not known for his submissions. Martinez is the -315 favorite. This fight is the over-under set at 2.5, -180 for the over, +150 for the under. We're going to go with another dog in this fight, Davy Dangerous Grant. We believe that he has what it takes. I think this is going to be a boring fight. This one's going to go the distance. Will come down to a decision, but nonetheless, that's exactly where you're going to be. Next up on the fight card is Ige versus Tucker. This is going to be, I think, another great fight on the evening. Dan Ige, Gavin Tucker. This fight, the over-under set at 2.5, the over at minus 260, the under at plus 200. Ige, the favorite at minus 145. Tucker, the dog, at plus 115. Dan Ige's 14-3. He's 29 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. He's 2-1 in 2020. He is 6-1 in his last 7 fights. His last 6 wins, 4 were by decision, 2 round 1 finishes. Gavin Tucker is 13-1. He's 34 years old, 5'6", with a 66-inch reach. He has a 3-fight win streak going right now. He is 2-0 in 2020. He has 4 UFC wins, 2 by unanimous decision and 2 by round 3 finishes. This fight is, like I said, at 2.5 as the over-under is set at. This one might go the distance as well, but I think it's going to be an entertaining 3 rounds to take the least here for you. Dan Ige has had some good fights. He's shown what he has, but I'm a huge fan of Gavin Tucker, and I believe the numbers point that way as well. So we're going to go to Gavin Tucker on this fight, beating Dan Ige. I think Ige has a little bit more to lose in this fight, might be a little bit more desperate, which could help him to win this fight. But I believe Gavin Tucker and his talent, his skill set is right where it needs to be, and that's exactly where we are going. Now, let's move on to the co-main event. It's going to be a great fight, I think. Misha Sirkanov versus Ryan Spann. This fight, the over-under is set at 1.5, the over at plus 110, the under at minus 140. They don't expect this fight to last very long. Misha Sirkanov, 15-5 as a professional. He's 34 years old, 6'3", with a 77-inch reach. His last win was against Jimmy Crute, but that was back in 2019. It was a round 1 finish. His last 12 fights, he finished 9 of them. He has 8 submissions in his last 9 wins. Ryan Spann, he's 18-6, 29 years old, 6'5", with an 81.5-inch reach. He had advantage with both of those things. He had 2 fights in 2020. He was 1-1 in those fights. His last fight was a loss, a round 1 loss to Johnny Walker, and he had a split decision win over Sam Alvey. He has 8 wins before his loss to Johnny Walker, 5 round 1 finishes, 1 round 2 finish, and 2 decisions during that 8-fight win streak for Ryan Spann. Spann, a slight dog at plus 100, Sirkanov at minus 130. And this fight is going to be entertaining. And like I said, Vegas expects it to be short, and we like it that way as well. We're going to go with Misha Sirkanov in this fight and think that he's going to have another submission here in this fight tonight, UFC Fight Night Vegas 21. Who do you think is going to win, Sirkanov or Spann? Go ahead and put it in the comments section there. This is a close one, again, with the odds at minus 130 and plus 100. Thank you, BUSR, for those numbers, by the way. One of the closer fights expected here on the evening. That brings us to our main event of the evening. The one and only Leon Edwards versus Bully B, Belal Muhammad. Leon Edwards, Belal Muhammad, the over-under set at 4.5. We talked about this earlier with Jay Henry. The minus 195 over, plus 160 under. We think this fight more than likely goes to a decision, would be our bet at the very least here. Leon Rocky Edwards. He's 18-3. 8-fight win streak. He's 10-2 in the UFC. He's only 29 years old. He's 6'2", with a 74-inch reach. His last win was over Rafael Dos Anjos. That was back in the summer of 2019, and that was by unanimous decision. Belal Muhammad has been a little bit more active. He's 18-3 as well. He's on a 4-fight win streak, 9-3 in the UFC. He's 32 years old, 5'11". That is 3 inches shorter, and a 72-inch reach. That is 2 inches shorter as well. He has fought 3 times since Leon's last fight. I put it out there on Twitter today. I think if you've forgotten who Leon Edwards is, you're going to be reminded tonight. He's one of the top fighters in the UFC. And although Belal has been recently more active and seen by more people and talked about more, Leon Edwards is a top-notch UFC fighter, and I don't think he's going to struggle against this. He might start slow because it's been a while, and I think Muhammad has an opportunity to take the first round. And if Muhammad can take the second round, now all the pressure is on Leon Edwards as well. And Belal Muhammad likes to apply pressure onto his opponent as well. But at the end of the day, Leon Edwards is too good, I believe, for Belal Muhammad to beat him. Now, in the fight game, all it takes is one swing. All it takes is one slip. All it takes is one wrong move, and you could be done. So, obviously, there is potential for Belal Muhammad to win this fight. But I think Leon Edwards is ready for his title shot, and he's going to prove it tonight against Belal Muhammad. At minus 260, he is the favorite, and we would go all day, all night right there with Leon Rocky Edwards. Too many people just forgotten how good he is because he's not been active. And I think tonight we're reminded of exactly who Leon Edwards is. And that is the UFC Fight Night Vegas 21 picks for the evening. Feel free to disagree. Feel free to go the other direction. I'm scared picking 6 underdogs. That's hard to hit on for sure. That's just where we believe the numbers went. So again, here's the winners we've picked for tonight. Jason Witt, Gloria De Paula, Courtney Casey, Rafa Garcia, Ronnie Yaya, Marcela Rojo, Ashley Yoder. That's the prelim fights. And we've had a lot of kickback, by the way, on picking Garcia over Haqparast. And remember, it's not personal. We're just picking fights. Then on the main card tonight, we have the winners being Darren Stewart, Matthias Nikolao, Davey Grant, Gavin Tucker, Misha Sirkanov, and Leon Edwards. So we've picked a grand total of 6 underdogs in this fight. And then we've also told you to watch the under for Angela Hill, Ashley Yoder at plus 300. A little bit of value there. So make sure you keep an eye on that. A couple things heading up. We're keeping an eye on who Derek Lewis is going to fight next. He has said he's willing to fight Cyril Gane while waiting for Ngannou or Stipe in the title shot. So that might be coming down the pike very soon. We've seen a number of fights get added to upcoming cards. The upcoming cards continue to be phenomenal. The pay-per-views especially are absolutely crazy how exciting that they're going to be and the fights that they have scheduled for them. Next week's fight, it's another fight night scheduled. It's Derek Brunson versus Kevin Holland is the main card, the main event, Gregor Gillespie and Brad Riddell's on there. Taya Tuivasa and Dontel Mays, a heavyweight battle on there as well. A lot more kind of under the radar people to some degree. Max Griffin on there. Macy Chiason's on there as well. There's a few fighters on that card that could be fun to watch, and we'll prepare for that one next week. Then you've got the 260, which is Stipe versus Francis. You got Volkanovski versus Ortega. Tyrone Woodley's on that card. Sean O'Malley's taking on Thomas Almeida. William Knight, Alonzo Minifield is on that card as well. I saw some other ones. Jillian Anderson, Miranda Maverick on that card. It's just a stacked card. So the next couple of weeks in the UFC are going to continue to be exciting. We're edging closer and closer to the Bellator Grand Prix as well as going to be on there. So it's going to be quite the events coming up here in the UFC for sure. So make sure you keep up with us. We're going to be on each Saturday, typically an hour before the prelims start is when we air, but we will post that information on Belly Up Fantasy's Twitter and Facebook pages, and then also on my personal Twitter account at Sports Stove. I host the Sports Stove podcast, and we talk about all other sports as well. So feel free to give us a listen on a regular as well. But this has been the Belly Up MMA Show, brought to you by the Belly Up Fantasy Sports and BUSR. Make sure you get on to BUSR/Belly Up Fantasy. Get signed up for your 20% sign-up bonus there at the $500. So then you can get your picks in there and take home some spending money as well. Thank you again to Jay Henry for joining us tonight and sharing his insight. Did a great job for us this evening. We'll continue to bring you guests each week as well as picks for the fight. So enjoy the fight. Make sure you go to bellyupfantasysports.com and get caught up on all fantasy news. And, of course, BUSR/Belly Up Fantasy to sign up for and make picks there on BUSR. Thank you so much for tuning in to tonight's Belly Up MMA show. We will see you next week for Brunson versus Holland.